We're back.
We're back.
And guess what?
We got some mics here.
Yeah,
the
from the
audio is
first
going to be
video.
like a little better, I think.
Slightly better than the first one.
Yep.
So here we go.
Here we go.
All right, so second video.
Second video.
What are we talking about?
Club face control.
Club face control. You hear about that a lot.
A lot, yes.
It sounds sexy.
It sounds sexy. Yeah, I just think it's something that a lot of people don't do very well.
Sure.
Control the club face. So want to understand how to do it today. Maybe some practical drills in order to understand it and
Yeah,
get right into it.
absolutely. I think that sounds great. So club face control is like one of those big things, again, in my opinion, that's, you hear a lot about it, but it's like they get cast out there like you need to control the face better. So like in essence, we throw out this problem and then there's no solution really. The other thing that we hear often with like every single person that we work with is like, dude, you know, if I just was a little bit more consistent,
Yes.
then I'd be so much better.
Basically everyone. You're asking what their goals are. I want to be more consistent.
Exactly. Well, and what consistency really is obviously hitting it out of the middle of the face, but where that face is pointed through the strike is going to dictate overall dispersion.
Correct.
Right? So if we've got a higher rate of rotation in the club face through the strike, the chances of the golf ball going further left or further right just elevate. Right? So like our favorite strikers, I would throw like Victor Hovland in there.
Yep.
Obviously Hogan. And there's a number of guys on tour that you just see like through the impact area as it exits through the ribs that the face is just not rolling over any longer, right? And I think that's really important for people just to generally understand so that when they go to the range and they're working on their technique, that those things actually mean something. You're not just like guessing through the strike. Again, that's where the frustration comes from is like, I'll hit one and I guess okay and it kind of goes forward and then the next one is like, feels the same, but because the rate of rotation is so crazy, it's like some totally different result and now I'm ticked off.
Yeah. When you've got snap hook and push fade in your bag, that's not necessarily a good combo.
And straight and high and low.
Just about every combination.
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly. So let's get into this. So Teach, why don't you go ahead and set up to this golf ball for us. And actually, before we do that, let's face the camera. And what I want you to do is just show kind of what the wrist can do. And let's do it without a golf club first, just so that we're actually like educating what all the wrists can do, because they can do a lot in here. So this action of just hinging, okay, what that does is obviously leverages the golf club straight up in the air.
Okay.
That's called RD,
Radial.
deviation.
Okay.
If I went the other way, that's UD, ulnar deviation.
Okay, so RD,
Yep.
UD.
So the club's just doing that, right? So if I just go RD, UD, like I call it pistol drill. If I'm drawing on somebody, that would be RD. Put the pistol back in the holster, that's UD.
Oh, cool.
Okay.
Got it.
Right, easy enough to remember.
Yep.
But what that's doing is it's just leveraging the golf club up and down on this point. You could also go with the trail wrist complex, so us as right-handed players, that way, that's extension
Okay.
of the wrist. Or I could go this way, that's flexion of the wrist. What's that making the golf club do?
Be very, very square.
Yeah, and it just makes the club go side to side, right?
For sure,
So
yes.
this is up and down, this is side to side.
Okay, got it.
The other thing that I can do is make this wrist go that way. That whole wrist complex is going here, it's rotating. That's supination.
Okay.
You can remember supination because you're holding a cup of
Soup. Got it.
Exactly. And the other way, that would be pronation. That's also different, this is in the forearm,
Okay.
than the upper arm. So if I'm doing this is internal rotation, external rotation.
Okay.
Okay, so when we're talking pronation, supination, it's from the elbow down.
And then, what'd you call this again? Internal versus external?
Yeah, so the humerus is this bone right here.
Okay.
So if I took you from relatively neutral and rotated you that way, I'm rotating you internal, that's internal rotation,
Okay.
or external rotation of the humerus.
Got it. And that's
Okay.
elbow up.
And that's elbow up.
Okay, got it.
And oftentimes, this is kind of an interesting topic, kind of off, on the same topic and off. Arm action, hand action.
Got
So
it.
it's not just hand action, it's hand action.
Right below the elbow there.
Yeah,
Got
because
it.
all this makes this
Leaks.
do stuff, right?
Understood. Yep.
Okay, so let's just figure out what in the heck that does with a golf club, because we just went over like 3 different topics in essence. So let's hold the golf club right out in front again. Show me left hand supination. What'd that make the golf club do?
Shut down.
Well, what's interesting there is you did a couple of things. You supinated and went into flexion.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
So can I do it with just supinating?
Yep. There you go. So we're just going.
Oh, I
So
got
in
it.
essence, that structure doesn't change
Doesn't
at all.
change. Got it.
And what you showed at first was that, which is confusing because we have so many different ways that we can move these complexes in here. Oftentimes what you're doing is you're going to add 2, if not 3 different actions at one time. It's a lot going on.
It's a blend of actions for sure. Okay.
Exactly. But again, if we just went from neutral, see how there's a slight amount of extension right here?
Yeah.
So there's a little cup right there, so that's a slight amount of lead wrist extension. If we kept that same amount of extension and supinated you, you'd look like that. That's what the face just do.
That shuts it down.
Shuts it down. So the rate of rotation is fairly high. If we go this way, it's RD, UD, RD, UD.
Okay.
What's the face doing?
Face isn't moving.
Fairly stable, right?
Very stable, yes.
Okay, how about this way? This is flexion to extension. What's that face doing?
That's not moving much as well.
Not moving much as well, so fairly stable.
Yes.
Both of those actions are fairly stable.
So RD, UD is a stable action, and flexion extension is a stable action as well.
Exactly, and we're talking lead wrist here.
Okay.
Sometimes, like, if I go supination of the lead wrist, that means the trail wrist is pronating.
Got it. So they go together.
Exactly. If I go extension of the trail wrist, that means the lead wrist
Is going into flexion.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep. Compared to RD, both go into RD, both go into UD.
Understood.
Yep.
Okay.
So generally, I think it's good to just like better understand everything that can happen from the elbows down.
Okay.
Again, hand action. So that's going to dictate a lot of what's going on with the face.
Okay.
Okay, the really nice thing about stabilizing the face is what we do really early in the backswing is going to help load these different systems and all these different potentials. And based on how you load it, it's going to dictate how you unload it.
Okay.
So you can kind of cheat the system a little bit and that you just load it up early, kind of forget about it, and then just forget about the unload too because it's just going to get taken care of.
Okay.
Especially if your body's working really well. Totally different topic for this particular video, but if we can just load it really nicely, then all of a sudden it's just like you just kind of turn and let it go and it's going to unload in either more stable patterns or more unstable patterns.
Okay.
Totally the player's choice, but we're here to just educate like how you can go ahead and kind of use these cheat codes to help stabilize the club face in this particular video.
So you're kind of saying that club face control starts out like right from the get-go in the golf swing, right? So
You can for sure.
Okay.
There's some, not very many. Like I could study this a little bit more, but the one pattern that I think of for somebody that actually changes wrist conditions from an extension to flexion standpoint in transition is like Morikawa. As it's going up, he's got a little bit of flexion in this lead wrist, and then it goes into more, crazy more into there. Yeah, he does a lot of that.
and that's late.
That's late.
Okay.
I would venture to say that probably wasn't taught into his system. That's just a quirk that's
Something he
really
does.
freaking cool.
Yeah.
But it's just what makes Morikawa,
Okay.
right? Whereas other guys, like you watch DJ early in his swing,
Very early he goes into.
super early.
Yep.
Yep. And I'm actually curious. I would love to talk to DJ about what he actually feels. If it's trail wrist or if it's lead wrist. If he doesn't feel it at all just because that's DJ, who knows? But
Sure.
it's a really cool pattern. So go ahead and get into setup. And also, this would be good too, face the camera too, so you can just show folks kind of grip.
Okay.
You're almost in like a dual extension pattern at address. Fairly mirror-like, right? Boom, as you grip it. So it's not like we're in flexion here
No.
or flexion there,
No.
right? It's just fairly, I think you have a fairly neutral grip
Yeah.
from my standpoint.
Very much.
In that we've got a little bit of extension in both wrists.
Okay.
So here's how we're going to load that system. A couple of different ways to feel this. I want you to feel the trail wrist. Take that right hand off for me. Okay, and just put it right next to the club. Good, and now from here, as you work down the shaft, I want the palm to work down the shaft and work into extension, that way. There you go. So you feel that probably in this whole band load up. Like this gets stretched out.
Okay.
Okay, so go ahead and grip it again and show us that same feel. Okay, great. So because of this, we've got more extension of the trail wrist, and this has almost gone into a little bit of flexion in the first 2 feet, 3 feet of your golf swing.
Right.
So now we're loaded here, we're loaded there. These arm bands, posterior arm line, anterior trail arm line.
Got it.
Okay, so now if you can view those, do that again for us. Whoop. If you can view these as rubber bands, you stretch those rubber bands. If you were to let go of the rubber bands, what would they do? There you go.
Right, and that's where, like, if I show it here to the camera,
Yep.
that's pretty stable.
Super stable.
So
Now
not
that
a
looks
lot of
like a flip. Everyone would go, you flipped it.
Sure, but that's just because I'm not moving my chest along with
Not
it.
moving your chest. And by the way, our terminology, that's a stable release.
Okay.
A flip is pronation, supination.
So again, this is supination
Holding a cup of soup
to pronation.
to pronation.
So if I show that pattern here,
Yep.
supination to pronation,
Of the trail wrist. What'd the club face do there as the athlete? Like, what'd you feel?
like I have no control over it, just rapid closing.
So here's the thing. Could you hit a straight shot that way?
Yes, I would just have to make sure this is lined up at impact, but again, it's like a guesswork game. It's got to be timed up perfectly
And by the way, there's guys on tour that
do that.
Yeah, so it's not that it's wrong and there's another right way. You can do that and hit great shots. Like VJ Singh and Phil Mickelson, holy cow, the rate of rotation through the strike is like through the roof. Both exceptional players.
100%, yeah.
Okay, but what we're talking about is like for folks that are looking to either increase stability and have a better blueprint of how to like, club face stability is simply like lowering the rate of rotation of the club face and how to do so. How to increase that, how to decrease that. These are simple ways to do so.
Got it.
Okay, so let's put this into action. Really nice setup. Okay, and show that first like little feel where you're feeling like that trail palm is going down. There you go, excellent. Now, super gentle here. You know the load. Now we know how it's going to unload, but from right there, just finish your backswing, turn and unload it. There you go, okay? So let's set it.
Set it.
Beautiful. Finish the backswing, turn and unload it. There you go. Excellent. Now you can do, I mean, there's some cool like hack motion, super awesome. It shows like all the things that the wrist can do. Certain monitors like Flight Scope, TrackMan, G-Quad, they can show like thresholds right at the moment of the strike. It's not really showing like dynamically what's going on here, but you can see, you'll start to see like, oh, the club face is 0.2 degrees left on that particular shot, and on the next shot it's 0.5 degrees right, blah, 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 blah. But if you hit 20 shots, you'll get like this great baseline, and that'll show you kind of like your rate of rotation. Like if you have 1.2 left and the next one's like 1.2 right, that's pretty crazy.
That's a big change.
It's a big dispersion. So if you do this and you're going through like an exercise like this, you can actually put our words to the test and see like, hey, does that dispersion shrink?
Yeah.
So your face stability is better.
Okay, good.
Right?
Right.
Okay. What are your favorite drills? I just threw one out. What do you got?
Well, for face stability.
You teach me. I just taught you. Give me that club.
There you go. I mean, one of my favorite ones for face stability would be kind of like a mock delivery position. Okay. So again, that's been talked about
preset?
before. Yeah, like preset, but then come all the way back into a backswing and float to that honey hole type position. Okay. Yeah. So now this club is behind your rib cage. Okay. So one of my favorite ways to stabilize it is to simply leave it behind the rib cage and turn. Right. If you kept the chest moving through the strike there, actually kept it turning, that face is not going to flip over on you.
So hopefully folks can see what the face looks like there.
Right.
As I keep turning, we can see how that face is gradually, it's almost like what I see it as is if the club face had headlights on it, and this is like the path is a road, I'm more or less just turning to keep the headlights facing the road.
Yeah. And that's all you're doing there, right? You're not really feeling anything in the arms, wrists, right? So
compared to if I went back to that same position, that honey hole or P5, and then this stalled,
yes,
right? The arms would keep going. I just spun my car out.
Right, exactly. That's where you're going to get that supination to pronation look, is if the chest stops moving, right?
Yep.
So that flexion to extension pattern pairs really well with the chest rotation.
Okay.
Right, so one drill I would have you do is if you want to just go ahead and find that little delivery-esque position, right?
Okay.
Go ahead and pick the club out in front of you.
Okay.
And just simply set it on your right side of your body.
So we would almost go RD
Yep.
to flexion
Yep.
in one kind of gradual whoop.
Yeah. Right? And if I look at the camera here, it's just club face is on the right side of my body,
Yep.
right? Hands are still out in front of me, okay?
Yep.
Now from that position, if you go ahead and find that position for me.
So if I'm going whoop.
Yep.
Okay.
Now you would more or less turn your chest on a flat plane. So this is not necessarily golf swing yet.
So I'm level.
You're level, yeah. So you're just going to turn it. I want to actually have you turn it around this way.
I see.
So now you can go ahead and find the golf ball through bend and rotation.
Okay, great. I love that.
Okay.
So I'm feeling that there's a little drop here, a little drop, which kind of helps. Some systems, definitely mine.
Yep.
And then from here, I'm feeling, obviously this is turn, this is bend.
Yep.
So I'm just kind of blending those together. So if I drop and feel that, I'm going there.
Absolutely.
Okay,
yeah.
great.
All
So-
the while leaving that club on the right side of your body.
So I'm up here and then feeling that like
That's it.
to get in there. Okay. So if I just hit one like that,
Just a little chippy one.
so it's up. Yeah, super, super. You can feel it like
Yeah.
in your hands. It's cool.
It just doesn't flip over.
Yeah, it never turns over. It's just super duper stable. So I think one thing that would be kind of fun for folks to do too, because at the end of the day, like how many people do you play with or coach and they're like, I really feel like I'm a field player.
Sure.
Right.
All
Well,
the
we
time.
all are, right?
Yeah.
Like if you're shooting a free throw, you better understand like what it feels like to execute that compared to shooting a 3-pointer or a 7-footer. It's all different, right?
Right.
So you're feeling that. As golfers, we better feel what it's like to hit a 150-yard 8-iron compared to 130, compared to 180 for some,
Okay.
right? So compared to like, okay, so that's a stable feel, what I just felt. What if I did the same thing, but from here, I just felt this stop to let it go.
Okay.
So if I go whoop, up, yeah, and you'll feel so bad.
Yeah.
But you can sure feel the golf club release
Yeah.
in a totally different way.
You can feel the opposite end of the spectrum there, right?
Yeah, you can feel like a totally different pattern. So like you're motoring it with the chest is huge for stabilizing the face.
Yeah, huge.
Yeah, here's another one. I think on that note, Luke Brackey teaches this often where, I love this look. Tell me what you think of this, Tej. So if I put that there, in essence, I've got perpendicular lines. If I did the same, whoop, I've got parallel lines.
Okay, got it.
So if I kept those lines parallel,
Oh yeah, that's a great visual. Yeah.
that's a Luke Brackey,
Okay.
right? Up, bang. Even if I turned, see they're almost parallel?
They're staying the
And I
same.
can
Yeah.
go whoop, they stay parallel.
And
That's a great
that's a
picture.
recipe for club face stability, right?
Recipe for club face stability. And eventually, obviously, that's going to go. We're not just going da 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 da, right?
Sure.
It's going to go, but as long as the chest keeps motoring, that's a great way to like stabilize the club face through the strike.
And it's a common one I hear a lot, right? Is like they get worried about, well, when do I actually release the thing if I'm just going to keep the chest moving?
Yep.
Right. So when in your mind is the release actually happening?
It's totally different
For each
because,
player.
yeah, well, for each player and like driver compared to wedge,
Okay.
different energy levels, different. We got different dynamics out of the golf ball. Like driver, we want high launch, low spin. You hear about it all the time.
Yep.
Wedges, you want low launch, high spin. So if I'm going to go low launch, I'm sure not rotating this hard to get the golf club kicked out. That's going to hit it high and reduce the spin.
So you're saying like the harder you rotate this thing, the more that energy shoots out of the club head, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
It's like starts here, works through the arms, through the hands, out through the golf club. So the harder I go here, the easier it is to shoot the energy out.
Which is why I'm sure at lower speeds, it's easier to feel some of these club face stability things happen.
Yes, another
Right.
huge top. When you're doing things, you're learning. It's so much easier to feel like sequencing if you're doing it like one piece at a time. Like as humans, we can feel and visualize. I do this, and then I do this, and then I do this. Like that's sequencing.
Sure.
But you have to have enough space between each one of those to like, I accomplished this, now I can move on to the next, and then the next. If you do everything at high rate of energy, like the sequences just get
Yeah.
potentially closer together.
and it's going to be difficult to feel
Yep.
those changes happen, right?
Exactly. And what we're talking about is like kind of starting off with low energy, that this is rotating. I'm keeping the angle from this trail forearm to the shaft. That angle there, almost the same as I just turn. Boom. Instead of hard here to kick that out.
Sure.
And now that like, boom, all the energy shoots out. Just starting off with like face stability stuff, those couple of exercises are really, really good pictures.
I agree.
For folks to see. And it's like, what's cool, like what you gave me there with like the chest, how it's moving, and how that's like associated with the club, freaking really cool. And then also just understanding what your hands can do and how you load up those different arm lines will help tremendously with just how they naturally unload. And then we talked a lot about different, I mean, anatomical terms and like all these things. Even though these are longer videos, there's a lot that we cover. I'm sure there's going to be questions. Write comments down below. Any comment that you throw out, any question that you have, we'd be happy to answer those as best we possibly can. Also, we're making lists of different videos that we're going to make. We just threw up like 20 or 30 different topics.
Right.
But we would love your help, because the whole purpose of doing these videos is to like help you with your golf game, and so you play better golf. So if you have questions, send them over. We'd be happy to explain those, even in videos sometimes. So, cool?
Cool.
Okay. Game on, Teach.
Game on. Good shit.
Peace.
Oh, sorry.
Keep that.
As always, that was an absolute blast to make. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe, as it really helps us to grow and bring you better and better iterations of these videos going forward. And if you have any questions that this video raised for you, please leave a comment. We'd be happy to answer those as well. See y'all next week.